Billy, welcome to Growth Stories. Awesome to have you. Could you give a brief intro, your company and yourself, to the
Uh,
audience?
sure. Thank you for having me, Ben. Again, Billy Lipari. I am the director of marketing for Sur-Seal. Um, we are a parts manufacturer of light, flexible material, which for a lot of people doesn't mean anything. But essentially, the easiest way to explain is we kind of take materials, rolls of materials, and then convert them to a smaller part. So to OEM specs. So we work in multiple industries, your aerospace, your automotive, HVAC, lighting,
Hmm.
uh, you kind of name it. We're probably having conversations with those industries. And for the most part, almost every piece of equipment that we use or own, has some type of flexible gasket, some type of foam to seal or whatnot. So, not the sexiest of products, but essential for a lot of people to make their products better or usable. So
I love almost all the folks that I've had on the show are in industries that I think so many of the guests describe themselves as, not in a sexy industry. And of course, Blue Corona, our focus, the industries that we serve, I love all the industries that we serve. And I just think it's funny that so many people say that, and yet, we all work in these industries, and and I find them all fascinating. Although it is, if you're at a marketing conference or, cocktail party, it's certainly not as fun to talk about as, the friend who works for fill in the blank, some consumer
yeah,
products company.
yeah,
How did you sort of kind of along those lines? What was your career path, to get to
here,
SureSeal?
yeah. So always worked for an OEM. So worked really for a couple kind of startups that were, believe it or not, like in the CD, DVD business. So a manufacturer of DVDs. This is a long time ago when DVDs were popular. Then went over to a really the global leader in window and skylight manufacturing. Um, was there for a long period of time. Then went to a tool manufacturer, which that actual job was somewhat sexy, selling tools because
Mm.
every everyone loves tools. And so always on the OEM side, and then um, met the at the time the general manager of Muller.
Mm.
Muller is now been acquired or merged with SureSeal,
Mm.
but apologize about that.
No
So
worries.
really came from the OEM side, and then didn't know this industry at all. Met the GM, and we hit it off. And I wasn't looking to leave the company that I was at, but knew I wanted to be here, and I really wanted to work with this person.
Mm.
He said all the right things, and they didn't have a marketing department. It was on the docket for 5 years and never got approved. And when it finally got approved, then they started doing the search, and it was really meant to be. I mean, I just knew right from the start that even though this wasn't an industry that I knew very well, the company was a great company.
Mm.
At the time, it was privately owned by two brothers, and they were saying all the right things that would attract someone with my experience to try something new. Um,
I think there's a key takeaway in there. I wound up in the sort of in the home services space, primarily home services, in a similar way, when going to work for sort of a person, going to work for like a mentor.
yeah,
So I was more interested in the person that I was going to be working for. And honestly, I remember telling my wife, like, this guy could be selling wing nuts, and I would go work for him. I'm going to work for him, and the company is sort of in the industry is a secondary. Like, are there macro positive things happening in the industry? Sure, that's important. And I think, for all the business owners listening, making sure that yourself, as the business owner, your management team, that's who people are really interviewing with. Your company, of course, but also who's going to be their, the person they report to, that's going to shape their career, that's going to build them up, all that kind of stuff, especially in this labor market.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I knew this earlier in my career, but I almost didn't care what the company did. I just knew I wanted to be a part of it. It was showing, one, they were innovative, they were growing, they were really going to hand me the keys to their company and their brand, and just say, "Hey, you're the expert. You tell us what we need to do."
Well, and dig in on that for a second, and I'll get to the question I ultimately have is about your industry and sort of marketing, sort of what's common in the industry versus maybe how you approach things, because it strikes me as you've got to be, sort of on the leading edge in terms of how you guys approach marketing, digital marketing, account-based marketing, that kind of stuff. But I think I was telling David Hamrick, our account director who works with you guys, I was telling David that when I was going through Salesforce and all of our notes that we have on you guys kept popping up in this digital competitive analysis that was done. I used to go out to Vistage groups and present to business owners, and my topic was digital competitive analysis. Now you can use it, to grow. And one of the owners of the company, or maybe both of them, must have been in a group in Cincinnati, Ohio, because that's where the analysis was. Or you were a competitor of someone in the group. Do you know if the owners were in Vistage?
Yep, we were.
Okay.
Yep.
And one of the challenges when I would go out to these Vistage groups, a lot more B2B, a lot of manufacturers, commercial real estate and things like that. And a lot of things that I would walk them through in terms of their digital presence. Some of the folks in the audience would say, look, Ben, all this stuff's great if you own like a residential plumbing company or a residential roofing company, but we're a commercial fill in the blank roofing company, OEM manufacturer. Like our clients aren't going to be on Facebook. They're not, active on LinkedIn. This was years ago.
Yeah.
So I guess talk about the industry, sort of as you see it, how it's evolving and kind of your approach. Do you think of yourselves as being on sort of forward thinking, or how do you look at it?
Well, one, I do believe we are on the leading edge as far as this. They call this industry converters. So this space of manufacturing, most people don't have a marketing person, and that's really at any size, whether they're $10 million in sales or 100 million or 200 million. I mean, marketing is just not really thought of as a necessity, which is one of the interests that brought me here. Is wow, this is untapped. I mean, we can do something here that no one else is doing. And in fact, a few months ago, I did a demonstration with our suppliers. Now, our suppliers are much, much bigger. They are billion-dollar businesses. And I can tell you, in general, most of them, after the presentation, said, "You're doing stuff that we're not even doing. Like you're ahead of us, and we're much bigger." And I'm like, well, one thing that we do a couple of things really, really well. We partnered with a few people, and I think we give 100% trust to those partners. And if you don't have that, then you should find new partners. But what I try to do is I really want to focus on a few things and do them well, make sure those things are measurable, and then just kind of accelerate that. And most people, if they are a converter and they are doing some marketing, they're typically thinking about the traditional marketing ways of doing business, trade shows and brochures and stuff like that. And when I got here, I said, we're not going to do any of that. And, it made some people a little nervous, but I said, we can do that, but you're going to get the same results as everybody else.
Mm.
If you want different results, then we have to do something different. And, it probably took a year for them to really understand that mindset and that we have to take some risk. But, they're measurable risks. And if you see something's not working, then you can pivot and you can stop, or so on and so forth. And, we're not going to risk everything on whatever one type of advertising or marketing type of function. But I know most people aren't doing what we're doing, and so that's also good, because I see people now trying to copy me.
Yeah.
But I think what we're doing works well. We were lucky to choose the right partners, and so far, because this industry has a lot of turnover, but the people we've chosen, there's really zero turnover. So they know our accounts really, really well, or our account well, and they understand our business. And when you really have that type of partnership, and then people take ownership of your business, it the results kind of work its way, so.
Talk about did you have sort of, had you proven that what you were proposing to do, if before you joined the company, presumably you had some ideas of, this is what I would do if these guys hired me.
Yeah.
Had you done some of that in a previous life where you had the confidence to say, look, I know this is different than what you've done in the past, but I've seen this work? And was it that, or was it sort of I think this could work in this industry, for this company that I haven't joined yet? I guess that's kind of part A. And then part B is, I guess talk about sort of, how do you manage the owners or, executive team's expectations? So much of marketing is experimenting and testing and trying. Always blows my mind that, like, how many successful business owners are so averse. They'll take huge risks in one part of the business, but they don't want to do anything, or they have a very limited patience for like testing something growth market related. So I guess the question A is like, did you have a playbook before you joined, or was it? And I think, okay, talk about that.
Well, when I first started having conversations with this company, but essentially I was getting really excited, and I came in, I don't know, third or fourth interview with my playbook, and I presented it to the executive team here, and there was 12 of them. And I essentially said, hey, here is the playbook. Hopefully you choose me to implement it. If you don't, I can pretty much tell you this is the playbook for success. And, and you don't have to go with me, and you can take my work. But I came in with a pretty detailed, here are the things that you have to have. Not so specific, but really, hey, you need a CRM. You've got to have a CRM that can collect the data, and the CRM has to be hooked up to the website. You have to have a strong, website company that understands SEO. If they can only build something pretty, it's not going to be that effective. But if they understand SEO, driving the right traffic, because it's not just about the traffic, it's the right traffic. But then you capture them, then they come into the system, and then you have to have a way of how do you measure, and how do you keep in touch with now what I would call a lead. And how do you do that in an ecosystem that is all integrated? It's automatic. There's nothing manual, because then you can accelerate that growth. But if you don't have a good website, if you don't have a CRM, if you don't have someone that understands digital marketing and SEO and ads, then you're only going to be somewhat successful because you don't have the full team together. And what we really focus on is really the return on investment. So a lot of marketing people say, hey, this is my job up to this, and I draw a line in the sand, and now it's your job, sales. And if you don't do X, Y, and Z, that's not on me. We don't look at it like that at all. I mean, I'm very hands-on with the salespeople here, and I know our CRM better than most. And I kind of approach it a little differently than, we're going to just stop here and then it's on somebody else. And it's a real team effort. And I am judged by, new business sales. And I think a lot of people in marketing are not. And if you start tasking marketing people or incentivizing them or, holding them accountable for new business sales or new business growth or, how many leads come in or so, the close ratio and all that stuff. Marketing people are going to think a lot different than they would in the past on their budget. And, I approach everything. I won't give, my ratio, but, we have a certain ratio. If we spend X, we expect, Y in return. And if we can't, if it's not measurable, we're probably not going to do it because I just think that's wasted money. But if it is measurable, we're gonna try it and we're gonna test it.
Was it a difficult conversation? I know some industries, this is more accepted and it's more, at this point, it's more formulaic. When we first started in business, it wasn't this way in almost any industry where other than like, e-commerce, but when we started Blue Corona, a lot of like how we kind of came up with the marketing, the marketing budgets, the goals and all that kind of stuff was based on the lifetime value of the customer and sort of your appetite. How much of that lifetime value can you afford to give up or do you want to give up in order to grow the business? And, you would have some companies that would say, I can't afford to give up any, and it was like, well, it's going to be very difficult to grow, if you have no budget to acquire those new customers. And I guess my question on your end is, again, did you have to go through sort of an educational process with the owners where you said, okay, look, I understand now the business, this is what a customer's worth to us, and kind of here's what the marketing sales funnel looks like. And sort of talking them through like I'm not asking obviously for the number, like what's an example, but did you have to go through the process or did they already have sort of an idea that, hey, yeah, we would spend X to acquire new customers all day long?
No, they did not. I mean, I think I scared them in some initial interviews when I said, what % of sales do you dedicate to marketing? And they were like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, typically, other companies that I've worked for, we're in the 5%, sometimes as high as 7% is dedicated to marketing. And they looked at me and thought, no way we can end this interview. And I had to explain to them, I'm not expecting that, but do you have a number in mind? And they essentially were like, no. And I said, okay, you tell us. So, I kind of did the research and said, hey, we're going to start off small and I'm going to show you the results. It's all measurable. So it's not, I think we did this. And essentially the owners and my manager at the time said, hey, let's start off with this number. And it was a number I recommended. And they said, well, we'll green light that. And as we see success, we'll add to it. And, one thing is this culture here is very strong. This, our business at Sur-Seal is very rooted in culture and trust. And if we say we're going to do something, then, we're going to do it. There's not a lot of flip-flopping and there's not a lot of proving. I mean, they essentially said, you're the subject matter expert. If you think we need to spend X amount, then we're going to trust you. And if you think we can get these results, again, we're going to trust you. So it wasn't like I had to do a large presentation and convince a lot of people. They were already convinced after I got hired. I mean, that was kind of the interview process. And, essentially, the results came in positive, and everything comes down to a sale and new customers. How many new customers did we get? What was the average size deal? What is the lifetime value? And, is it in a market that we want to grow in with healthy gross margins? And if I checked all those boxes, we would then add more money. And we did it systematically, that we never really exposed ourselves. But at the same time, we definitely want to take risk, and we want to challenge ourselves. Otherwise, then we're not learning. So we want to fail, but not fail. If we fail, we want to fail quick.
Yeah.
And correct that and then keep trying. So, I like to think that we're trying something new every quarter. And not that we want to try too many things, but every quarter, I think we want to tweak something. And then maybe it's once a year, we're trying something large and making a big investment.
Yeah, I hear two things in what you just kind of talked through. Number one is we talk a lot at Blue Chronos sort of about the what and the how. And I guess as a sort of a mistake I see business owners making is, business owner, CEO, president, department head, they are responsible for sort of clearly and inspirationally describing what are we trying to achieve? What's the vision? Where are we trying to take the company? But then ultimately you're trying to build a team and hire partners and experts, and you rely on them to tell you how are we going to get 20% growth or whatever it might be. And I feel like one of the things that we see with successful clients versus those that maybe struggle or don't last is where the person who described the what, who's not the expert, starts delving into and sort of directing the how. Like, I want you to spend my SEO budget this month updating, this part of the website, the terms and conditions, because legal said I have a disaster. So it sounds like in your organization, the culture is such that it's like they're telling you what we're trying to achieve. You're demonstrating yourself as the expert, and then they're trusting those recommendations with the accountability that you're going to track the results and sort of be accountable for what does and doesn't happen. The second piece that I heard you saying was, it's you mentioned fail and fail fast, but you also kind of tied that together with if you test something and it doesn't work, but you tracked it and you learned, and then that informs the next test, then you could argue that it's not a failure. It's part of the process. I think if you try stuff and you don't track it correctly and you're left at the end going, why didn't this work? And everyone's arguing about it, then it really is a big waste of money because you're back at square one. There was something else I was going to ask about with, do you guys as an organization, do they set sort of multi-year kind of a big goal, and then do you do sort of the annual planning? How is marketing involved, and sort of, is there a cadence that you guys use to check in results? Is it monthly, quarterly, or something different?
I mean, we do set a goal. And we'll work 1 year, 2 year, 3 years out. Mm-hmm. And typically what I've done is tell me the number that we want to achieve. And, so then I take that number and then I kind of, reverse math and say, okay, well, if we want this number, then we need X amount of volume to the website. Mm-hmm. Because I know my close ratio, I know my average deal size, but now I come back and I say, okay, in order to get that number, then we have to have this size funnel. Mm-hmm. Because I know my ratios. I know how many people, if they come in at this stage, then drop off. And we kind of approach it that way, which has worked for us. And then, we've fortunately for the last 5 years, we've overachieved every time we've set that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So this year our annual goal, we achieved that in the first quarter.
Wow.
So we're really ahead of schedule. But I think we did some really good planning, and that's kind of how we approach it. It is about the dollar, but I know if I have X amount of volume, I know how many turn into leads, I know how many convert, and I know what we win, and I know about the average size deal. So I can quickly figure out that math and then adjust with either paid advertising or whatnot on how to get that traffic to the top of the funnel.
Is there when do you guys do the annual planning sort of in the fall, and how long of a process is it? Like a week? Is it longer?
I would say it's probably a 2-month process.
Okay.
We've already started it right now
Nice.
for next year. So yeah, we're a little ahead, but I think early planning helps
Tremendously.
essentially. So we're not scrambling, and there's also no surprises. I mean, I think what I'm going to do in August is I'm going to present that plan to salespeople, and everyone has buy-in, and everyone knows. And it's really kind of I like to say it's kind of a bottom up, even though the top number does come from the top, but it's kind of a bottom up approach where we're all in it together. We start going through the accounts. We know which ones are going to grow. And then, the unknown is the new business, and that's really where I come in. But being here now 5 years, I have a good grasp of what's realistic and what we can do. And I know to some extent what levers to pull. I know if we pull this lever, we spend a bunch, well, the conversion rate's probably going to go down a little bit. So we need to adjust that, and so on and so forth.
Was that bottom up kind of culture or approach there before you got there? I mean, is that something that's just sort of how the company operates, or is it something that sort of evolved as you've been there? I say it because I feel like it's, again, when you look at companies that are great, I would say the majority, you hear things like that, buy-in, bottom up, as opposed to, here's the goal, figure it out, and sort of that, like, dictatorship style.
No, we don't have that style at all. I mean, it's always been bottom up. The sales guys really dictate. Now, again, they have to be reasonable, and we do expect growth every year, but it is the culture. They know it right from the start. They gave us their number. We tweaked it or challenged it, and so on and so forth. But and then at the end, maybe it is a little light, and we have to add something, and then we have to figure out that gap.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it is the way we've done business here. Well, on the Muller side, which was the previous company, that's the way they did business for 80 years. And they never changed it. 2 years ago, we merged with Sur-Seal, the Cincinnati location, but the culture is still the same. The reason this merger worked so well is because the cultures were so similar, and what we do is very similar. The people, how we go to business is very similar. So that was really the attraction to merging these two companies, because it wasn't going to be a shock. It was going to be a pretty natural fit.
Was it, you guys use HubSpot, right, as the marketing, as sort of CRM
and marketing tool,
which of course, when you look at all the different CRMs or ERPs, all these systems that are out there, HubSpot obviously is very sort of marketing focused. It's like one of the biggest benefits of the platform: ease of use, flexible. What were they using before? I'm kind of assuming you implemented that. What were they using before, and was it a bear getting sort of onto the new platform?
Well, they weren't using anything, which was really concerning.
So if salespeople were making calls, it was like either a spreadsheet, notes, and kind of the billing system is where
Yeah.
customer data would live?
Yeah. So you can imagine
Very
monthly
common.
meetings because everyone brought their data in different formats. So it was terrible. Now, at I will say the size of the company was much smaller.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say it was manageable, but if we were going to grow, we had to stop that habit. And I would say it took about a year to really convince people what a CRM and a marketing automation tool looks like. Most people just don't understand it. Um, and so getting approval is a little harder,
Hmm.
but at some point, I think they realized, one, they brought me here for a reason. I'm making the suggestion. It is only going to put everyone on the same level, and accountability is now will now be part of our new culture, because until you have a CRM and you have a place to measure, it's really, really hard, and it's just, it's not the most efficient way to go to business. So it took some convincing, but not much. I think one, HubSpot is a really good tool.
Hmm.
You weren't looking. I don't want to put down Salesforce. Salesforce is a really good tool as well. It didn't make sense for the size of company that we were
I was
in.
going to say, I think if we had to do it all over again, the reason we originally didn't go with HubSpot when Blue Corona was first starting out is HubSpot at that time was privately held, and they had a growing services side of their business, and they had VARs, value added resellers. We were one briefly, and my partner and I were kind of going, this could go one of two ways. They could get all these VARs, and then and when you signed up as a VAR, buried in the terms and conditions, and I'm a HubSpot shareholder, so I'm a huge fan of the company, and it's been a fantastic investment. But in the terms and conditions, they had something that essentially said every customer you sign up as a VAR, ultimately we kind of own. And so him and I had built in a previous life an office coffee business where we were using Keurig and Green Mountain, built up this nice little business, and then Keurig, Green Mountain bought Keurig and started going direct to all the customers. And it was like, oh my gosh, we've just built this $1 million plus business, and they're selling to the customers directly what we're like, just about what we're paying, for wholesale. So with HubSpot in the beginning, we were thinking, gosh, if they decide to go the service route, they could just eat us in a second. I didn't realize their grand play to go public. And then, as a SaaS platform, as a software company, you don't really even want the service revenue because the SaaS multiple is so much greater.
Yeah.
But going all the way back, we signed up with Salesforce because we were like, Salesforce is never getting into digital marketing at the level that we're playing, whereas HubSpot might. And then once we had all that data into Salesforce, I started looking at HubSpot, but it was like, oh my gosh, to get all of this out and all these integrations out of Salesforce on HubSpot as a small business, I was like, forget it. We're just we're just stuck with it. But yeah, so I agree with your Salesforce is heavy, expensive to customize. I mean, you really need a specialty shop. So for anyone who's listening that's in the small, medium-sized business, even small, medium-sized enterprise, I think HubSpot has a lot of advantages. And again, it's super marketing.
It's marketing focused.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to focus. We don't use our CRM as a performance measurement tool.
Yeah.
It's collect data, has some nice, really easy dashboards to understand what's going on. So it's really to look at trends and get a pulse of the business. And we look at it as, 90% of it is marketing, and that's what it's really strong at. And then the other part is we created these deal stages. So it's really easy for a sales guy, which we customize the deal stages for the reps. And it's easy for them to see their 100 deals that they have going on and where they are in the pipeline. And that's really it. We do not look at it and try and micromanage their activity, which I think Salesforce is probably better at, but that's not how we use it.
Right.
And I can tell you that we give the sales reps the autonomy to use it to their needs. So if they don't believe in a deal stage and they skip it, we don't call them up and say, why are you skipping this? They're just like, hey, we that's not how I use it. Okay. So we give a lot of flexibility and we constantly make changes. And to make changes, I think is really easy.
Yeah,
So
extremely.
I probably make a weekly change to the CRM to some extent. So I don't have to call a developer. I can just do it myself.
Yeah.
And it's for our size business, it's been the best tool. And it hooks up, there's forms that are on the website and everything's measurable. And once they're in that ecosystem, then it just works.
Yeah.
We're fortunate to have obviously a partner, with you, and you work really closely with our digital HubSpot agency.
Yeah.
And
how do you something I thought about, and I was curious about it. And again, at my level within the organization, I didn't talk to our team about this. I'm sure they probably know, but with the different lines of business that you have, I mean, when you go to the website, you have an extensive list of sort of different lines of businesses, industries that you serve. How do you organize that from a marketing standpoint? Are the audiences more overlapped than someone like me would imagine, or are there like target audiences for each of the things that you do? And how do you, again, I guess, how do you organize marketing campaigns? How do you keep things organized? It's a lot.
Well, to some degree, yes, we are focused on certain markets, but that's really kind of for the face of the website. For the most part, the people that order parts from us do not look at themselves and say, I'm in industry X and I'm looking for someone that is in that same industry. They're really looking, they either have a problem that they're trying to solve, and then they come to our website and they see the different industries. We may or may not be in those industries, but typically most of our business is working with engineers, and we are subject matter experts in this industry. So I don't think someone that is outside of maybe those markets that we're showing, because those are our primary markets, but for the most part, someone will come to us and just say, hey, I have this product, I'm either inventing or it's currently manufactured, but we're having an issue. Can you help us? Because that's our strength. We are material experts. We have engineers on site, and we're able to provide a custom solution for them. And it doesn't matter what industry. Now we're stronger in certain, and we're aerospace certified. So we have to do, there's a process if you're dealing with aerospace, and we don't change that for other industries. So if you happen to be in the automotive industry and you come to us, we're going to handle it as if you're aerospace. So we have processes in place that work well. And, that we operate our business, across the board for any industry. So to answer your question, we show like we may be market specific, but in the end,
it's not like where you have to say, okay, of my marketing budget, I need to spend, $100,000 on this, $100,000 on this, 100.
No, and it's funny because people have pitched me that way, and I say, well, we don't go to market that way.
Yeah.
And what we do is we go to market on solutions. Like we're going to talk about this solution on this material that we know how to yield more than most, and we know how to, because we have the relationships that most people don't have with multiple suppliers. So we can kind of come in with a good, better, best option. That's really our strength is coming in with multiple. Here's you might be over engineering this problem or this part of the process. And we say, hey, that's overkill. You could do it with this, but here are some other ways of doing it. Have you thought about this? That's our strength. So when you think of your business that way, it's not market specific. It's really kind of engineer specific. So we spend a lot of time on creating content that educates people. We try not to get into the this is what we do. It's really, this is who we are.
Yeah.
And look at us as another partner to you.
Well, how do you there's so many different aspects of digital. I've seen these, people create these infographics with like every platform under the sun, all those social media sites, all of the B2B directory, that kind of thing. And I think, sometimes a small business owner or a marketing director comes across that and just, it's overwhelming to some. As you kind of think through your sort of playbook or your mix or your budget, what are the real drivers? Are there a handful of things that you focus on? How do you think about that sort of digital landscape, and how do you kind of decide where to focus and where do you focus?
Well, I kind of break it into a couple buckets. Everything has to be measurable and everything has to be lead gen. So I try not to devote any money that is not developing leads. So we focus a lot on content and a lot on driving traffic. Once they convert, then we spend a lot of time on kind of fostering that lead and down the channels of a funnel. So we spend a lot of time on, how often we touch, what are we going to say? Is it educational? Do we, is it going to interest the target? So, and again, it's really it's geared towards lead generation. And, we kind of do a couple things really, really well. We create a lot of content. We drive a lot of traffic. And then, the speed of business. We spend a lot of time within the CRM on accelerating how often we're going to touch them, providing quotes fast. We think speed wins. And if you don't have an integrated system, it's really hard to accelerate speed.
Yeah.
If there's
has
any process.
Have the types of content that you guys are producing, I mean, obviously sort of for the longest time, it's been, blogs and website pages, and kind of like, as you're talking about the different pages you have on the site, having content that's authoritative, but also specific and granular that, someone's searching for it. That's the thing that's going to come up because it's hyper relevant and you guys are the experts in it. Are you experimenting with other forms of content? What are you seeing, or what are you thinking about? I guess I'm thinking more of like video and some of the.
Yeah, we do a lot of video. I mean, it's video and blogs. Those are the two things that we do really, really well. And we create a lot of content on a monthly basis. For us, and I'm fortunate to say this, I think our traffic is really healthy. That's not a concern of mine. I think we are getting more surgical about our business and converting faster, converting bigger deals. And, I think at the beginning it was trying to get the traffic. It was trying to get the leads. Now we're getting enough.
Yeah.
Now it's getting better leads, converting them faster, getting them the samples they want, really providing a better service quicker than our competitors. And I think that will differentiate us. So I think blogs and video are a must because they kind of attract two different audiences. I mean, some people want to read and then some people don't. But on our video side, I think a lot of people also focus on like features and benefits. And we really kind of focus on culture. And hey, we had this issue, here's how we solved it. And we probably half of them are about, solving a problem. The other half is just our culture, getting to know somebody here on how we do X, Y, and Z. So, I think the more authentic you can be, we don't script anything. We just go out in the plant, interview people, and we'll ask them, hey, why Sur-Seal? And we just let them talk about why they're here and what makes this place so great. We think that resonates with the people that we're trying to talk to. I think a lot of people focus on, I have these machines, I can produce X amount of parts. And I don't think that's what what um, what interests people today.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of, that's expected to be able to do that stuff. But I think people nowadays, they want to work with people that they like and understand.
Yeah.
So we try and produce those types of pieces. So there is a connection. We are fortunate that I think we've only lost one customer in like the last 20 years. So, the lifetime value is really high here.
Yeah.
If we get them, they typically don't leave us. Now, that doesn't mean, there's not an end of life on a part or something,
Yeah.
but typically customers do not leave us. Um, I think once they experience the way we do business with people,
Mm.
because we are incredibly honest.
Mm.
And I think, it takes a lot of effort to leave a business and start have a new supplier of
Hmm.
X. And we're not going to make it easy for them to leave.
Hmm.
So, we excel, I think with the communication and the customer service and the partnership and, constantly coming up with different options. And I think if we service the heck out of our customers, they're not going to leave us because that's not, I don't think it's easy to find another replacement to SureSeal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. What about any marketing trends, sort of innovative things that you're kind of paying close attention to, or that you think sort of deserve a watchful eye?
Well, there's something I'm doing right now, and I don't mind sharing it, but it's doing a lot of A/B testing on conversion rate
Mm.
optimization. You know, I don't really need to get any more traffic to my website if I can just convert a little higher.
Hmm.
And I think that is an area that we're paying really close attention on how people are coming to our website, where are they going,
Mm.
the different changes that you can make that I can honestly say I've been wrong about 100% of the time. Every time we do these A/B testing, I always think, oh, that one's not gonna. There's no way that's going to yield a higher percentage, and I'm usually wrong. So I think there is a trend, or at least I'm paying close attention to on people's behavior
Yeah.
and not really understanding, but I like to understand, but really looking at the data on why a certain page converts or why a form converts and moving stuff around. And believe it or not, it is just a few little things that you can do. And the increase can be, 100% or 200%. You're just like, oh my God, I just changed the font color. But if you don't have someone that can do that type of testing, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You make a lot of assumptions and usually that you're wrong. So
It's amazing. I don't remember the year. It's probably 2010, 11, 12, but we were mocking up website, homepage, subpage, some other pages for a window and door contractor. And we had multiple, I think we had two graphic designers who were involved, or a graphic designer and someone who was more the web designer, and they were sort of working together, and an account manager, and we were doing an internal review. And I felt like on the one hand, for a certain type of designer, the designer who just says, I know it's best. I went to fill in the blank, RISD or, some design school.
mhm.
I know it's best. And then you'd have sort of the marketers or the people that were kind of saying, yeah, I'm just not sure about that. And then you have someone who said, who can, I don't want to listen to you two argue, like make one of each and let's put it out there. And I will say it was always, I had this like excitement, like this is the new thing. When, to your point, when the one that you thought was going to win, didn't. And then it was also, there was like a little bit of a sadness. It'd be like if you're buying a sports car and you found out that to race it, and you found out that the car that you thought was like ugly just wins 9 times out of 10, where you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
gotta go with that. And just sort of get used to that. And I remember that was a challenge, particularly with clients that we had that were, in the business to consumer, where that more direct response type advertising that, again, it sometimes is not pretty. But
Yeah,
when
I
you
mean,
see the business results, it's like, oh my gosh.
yeah, I have to give you guys a lot of credit. I mean, you've helped me understand that because many times I have said I'd like my homepage to look like X, or I don't think it looks good, or this or that. And, the data shows it's performing really, really well. Now, again, we constantly test it and change some things, but it does depend on what your goal is. Now, our goal of our website is not to just look pretty. Um, for some people, it is, but
Yeah.
for us, it's all about conversion and getting new business.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I hear people say, "Hey, look at this website. It's great." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it probably doesn't get one lead because there's not a form on there to fill out."
Right.
And if they do fill out a form, you can kind of tell it doesn't go into a CRM. It's a terrible process. So it may look good, but if it's not performing, then really we really focus on performance. And but I can tell you, my account rep has really kind of educated me and said, "Hey, let's look at the data."
Mm.
And you know, and he keeps reminding me, "Hey, what is your goal?" And I keep saying lead gen. He was like, "Stop messing with graphics and getting hung up on X, Y, and Z." And I'm like, "You're right." But that's where I think having a good partnership and trusting your partners,
Yeah.
I
It's like
will
a
kind of tell
healthy
them,
friction.
help me understand, they help me understand the details behind. And uh it's a good relationship, but it does take some trust and it takes time to build that trust. But if you can get it, and give up some control, it's the benefits usually outweigh.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Does HubSpot, years ago when I was using it, we had it deployed on an internal website. It might have been like a website, it was like either benlanders.com or a Blue Corona campaign
mhm.
specific site. And at one point, they allowed you to personalize the content. So if someone had visited the page, for
Yep,
example, from a
yep,
second time, you could change the content and kind of bring them down the funnel through the
yep,
site.
yep.
They still have that feature as because that is like incredibly cool. That
Oh yeah, yeah,
personalization.
yeah. I mean, I've done a demonstration on our marketing a few times, and one of the things that I try and explain is our marketing is kind of reacting to their behavior. So where they go, how they came in, what search term they used dictates really how we communicate to them, how often we communicate to them. I mean, we have all kinds of triggers.
Yeah.
If they're on the website for more than 53 seconds, they get a different message than the guy that was on there for 48 seconds.
Yeah.
We kind of determine, um, a really customizable experience, but it's all based on their behavior.
Yeah.
And we know if they were on the website for X amount of time and they went to this page, they're probably a little bit further down the funnel of making a decision. And therefore, we want to communicate a different way.
Yeah.
If they're on these pages, then they might be at the beginning stage. And what we're going to do is educate them on who Sur-Seal is.
Yeah. We used to say that the website's not a brochure, it's a sales rep. And when you describe that, I mean, it's exactly like a real sales rep would approach a prospect. As soon as they start asking the buying questions, you're no longer, touting X. It's like get the agreement because they're ready.
They are. Yeah.
Sounds like you guys kind of think of the website, the same way.
Well, I think we think of really the whole marketing um, plan that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if it's not aligned to support that, then we kind of ask ourselves, why are we doing it? Um, if it doesn't support accelerating growth, um, we kind of say, hey, let's talk about this. Is this just an awareness thing that we want to do, or is it really going to drive growth and revenue?
Yeah.
And we've been fortunate that we've been growing probably faster than most people in this space.
Mm.
And we have pretty aggressive goals going forward. So, we're all on the same page and we have that mindset here, which is really, really nice.
Anything you want to highlight something that you're focused on in 2023, or otherwise, how can folks learn more about the company and connect with you?
Well, certainly to learn more about us, go to our website, Sur-Seal.com. You learn all about us. But I mean, I think what we're focused on, we recently had an acquisition, which I can't talk about. It's south of Charlotte. So we are expanding our East Coast, and we're probably going to expand west of here as well. But what I would say is we are constantly growing. We are constantly able to provide new capabilities. And in this space, I think that differentiates us from others. So,
So is that safe to say then, if someone has a business, maybe they've grown it to a particular level, they like what they're hearing from you in terms of the culture that Sur-Seal has and how you approach things, and if they said, hey, I'm on the West Coast and I'm looking to, I've taken the business as far as I maybe could take it without a partner, that they should reach out, that you guys have an acquisition strategy potentially?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking to several people right now, but again, we are very strategic and it needs to be a good fit. And but yes, we have very healthy goals, and acquisition is part of that. It's not all of it, but I would say absolutely we would want to have a conversation. Yes.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Billy, for joining me. I think a lot of the insights that you shared are going to be really, really helpful. And again, it's amazing how many, not specific things, but the themes, the recurring themes with companies that, like you guys, are so successful. It's like getting the basics right. And I know, even though they're the basics and foundational things, they're still really hard, or there are very few companies that really nail it.
Yeah, I mean, I think people get lost, in the minutia of all these other tools that you could use. And I think you can get lost on trying to do 10 things average. And I think if you can do 3 things exceptional, that's really the key to success. At least it has been for us. We have 3 partners. I think we chose 3 great partners, suppliers to our marketing, and we do those things really, really well. And we try not really pay attention to the noise, because we just don't want to be in that space. I think we know enough, and the data's there to optimize what we're currently doing.
To me, you've talked a lot about growth, and from the outside listening in, it sounds like growth for you guys is an outcome of great thinking, excellence, and really focusing and getting those few things right. So congrats to on all the business success that you guys have had and continue to have, and hope for more in the future.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.